Hello to my pity pals. You may have noticed that Puddles has been posting a little Funko Pop on his Instagram. So I decided I want one. So we're gonna make one today. I got this off of Amazon for $10. It's completely customizable. So that's what we're gonna do today. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So the first thing we have to do is pop the top, remove the head from the body. It's glued on, so I have to stick it in some boiling water to loosen it up a little bit. After I boiled it for a little bit, it made it more soft and malleable, made it a little easier to remove the glue. The glue loosened up a little bit, and it was pretty easy to pop off after that. So for this project I will be sculpting, so I'm going to be using Super Sculpey, which is an oven bake clay. It doesn't harden up until you put it in the oven, so up until then it's completely soft and you can change things up if you need to. I've never used this clay before, but I really like the way that it feels. It's really easy to mold and sculpt, and it's just firm enough that it'll keep its form. So I am using a couple of tools for this. I used a fondant roller, which has these little spacers on the end to make it even when you roll stuff out. I'm using an X-Acto knife, just a regular X-Acto knife, and also a straight edge, just like a box cutter almost, just straight. As I said, this Super Sculpey is a new medium for me. I have never used it before. I was a little apprehensive in using it to put the entire Funko into the oven. I was afraid that it might melt, but after seeing how it handled the boiling water, I'm not too concerned about that anymore. All of the research I did online as to how to bake it and how long to bake it, they all say that it's more the temperature than the time. So if you're concerned about the temperature, you can lower the temperature on your oven and add time to the directions it says on the box. So the directions actually said to bake it at 275 for 15 minutes for every 1/4 inch thickness of the clay. So I actually changed it to like 250 and baked it for 45 minutes. It didn't have any problems. It came out fine. I believe if you bake it too hot, your clay could burn. And if it's too hot, eventually the plastic of the Funko Pop will melt. The tool I'm using here is just a little sculpting tool. You can get a 5-pack of them at Michael's for pretty cheap. It basically does the same job as your fingers would. It's just a little more precise. It's just a little silicone tip. I did spend quite a bit of time here on Puddles' lazy eyebrow. It's what I call his left eyebrow. If you're familiar with, if you've ever drawn Puddles or seen a lot of pictures of him, you know he's got that wonky eyebrow on the left side. He's got that little indentation over the top that looks kind of like a little check mark, or some people call it the Nike swoop. And it just kind of indents in, makes it a little more pensive than the other one. So I always like to add that detail whenever I'm doing an art project with Puddles. It just gives it all that little bit more character than just a regular flat eyebrow. So for the crown, I thought it'd be about the size of a 1/4 for this size sculpture. So I actually just used a 1/4. I cut it out and just used that as the base, because of course it's hard to cut out a perfect circle just on your own, and you always want to put Puddles' crown on the right hand side. I've seen quite a few art projects and even some tattoos that people get where Puddles' crown is on the wrong side, and to me it just looks wrong. I don't know why you wouldn't do some research before you got a tattoo, but yeah. Right side, the crown goes on the right side. Royal on the right, lazy eyebrow on the left. That's how I remember that. I tried to figure out a whole bunch of different ways to get the crown points in there, if I should measure it out or do this or that. I tried a couple little things and then just screw it, I'll just make a little cylinder. So that's what I did. I just started with a little cylinder on the top, sectioned it off, and I did have to add some clay around the base of this cylinder just to keep it stuck on the head because it kept popping off. So that is one thing that I had to do, especially with that little sculpting tool, is to kind of blend it into the head just so that it would adhere. And for the points, I don't know if this is the best way to do it. I kept trying not to cut myself. I managed to not cut myself, so yay for that. And Puddles' actual crown has 6 points on it. Every crown that I've ever made has 5, so I just went with 5. I think 5 looks better on the smaller crowns anyway. Then I did cut a strip for the base, just so that it has that little rim around the edge like Puddles' crown does. And then I used that little sculpting tool to kind of make the little curly cues on each of the points. Just kind of put pressure on the end and curled it around just to make it all that more little whimsical touch there, to make it a little curlier. And there's the head done. So for the body, the space between the hand and the rest of the body is very, very tight. So I found out the easiest way to do that is to start at the bottom and make my way up to the top. So I started with his pant legs and then I moved all the way up to the collar. I just kind of did one just flat piece of clay for each appendage and just shaped them on individually using that sculpting tool, and that seemed to work pretty well. For the record, I did not make the Funko that Puddles posts on his Instagram. Another fan made that for him a long time ago. You can tell it's been a while. It looks a little road weary, I guess. But yeah, I just wanted one for my party wall, so I'm making this for me. You can always make one for yourself as well. It's not really that hard. It's just a little, takes some time and a little creativity and a few tools. I did cut out the collar separately than the actual front of his suit, just so that it wouldn't be super thick on the front. And this is where this little tool really shines. It really did a lot of cool detail work on the suit itself. This is where it's actually for sculpting and not just blending. It really made the suit, it gave it just that frumpled look, which is appropriate. That's what your clothes would look like if you lived out of a suitcase, right? But as far as the suit being a little rumpled, once the clay is baked, you can go over it with sandpaper and make it as smooth as you want, and take out, buff out all the fingerprints and anything else. So that's it, ready for the oven. I think it looked pretty good. So this is after the oven. It is hard now. You do want to wait until it's completely cool before you try and touch it or do any kind of sanding or anything on it. I just used this really fine grit sandpaper to file down some of the harder edges. Yeah, it's just some stuff that I had. So next we're going to be painting. I'm using acrylic paint, and I am adding some of these mica powders to it to give it a little bling. So that's the silvery white for his suit, and I'm using bronze and gold for his crown. And this powder is the kind of powder that they use in like eyeshadow and stuff, just really fine, glittery stuff. So I started out with a base of bronze on the crown. I used gloss white for the suit, and I added that shine to that as well. This gloss white paint was pretty thin, so it did take probably 7 or 8 coats on the suit before you couldn't see the beige color anymore. So it took quite a bit of painting on that. And just an FYI on the mica powders, if you decide to use those, they are glitter, so they get all over everything. So I had to keep some rags around so that I wouldn't cross-contaminate my paints with that powder stuff, because it got all over everything. And this is with the gold dusting over the bronze, which kind of gave it quite a bit of depth. I also put a little gold in his above his eyes, just as like a little eyeshadow effect there. And this is just adding some of the details of his face, the little edges of his eyelashes. For the eyebrows, I kind of just did white and gray stripes. I put some stripes on there just to give the effect of just kind of individual hairs here and there. Because it's not really black and it's not really white, so it's just different shades of gray. For his nose, he also has a tiny little black line above the red on his nose too, just extra detail there. I did darken up the eyes a little bit, give it that smoky eye effect. And for artists that draw puddles a lot or that are particularly observant, one of the highlights of Puddles' face is always the white line between the iris of his eye and his eyeliner. Anytime you see a picture of Puddles, that's always going to be a bright white line right there. So it kind of brightens his eyes up if you add that. In the case of the Funko, it just made him look really super sad, which I thought was cute, so I just went with it. Add a little highlight to the eye. I actually took those highlights out and added them a little further up so that it would look like he was looking up instead of down. And of course, adding his little red spots. Little tiny dots in this case. And for the mouth, Funkos really don't have mouths at all. So I just did like the smallest little black frowny I could. I think if you had like a really big wide mouth, it would look weird for a Funko. It's just a little more eye smoking here. Just trying to get just a little bit of that gold highlight, but more of kind of the gray smoky look as well. And then there's the painting done. It's the highlights and all. And on the suit, I did 2 rows of rickrack on each appendage. And this is the final painting here, and then I had to varnish it. It's polyurethane, matte, water-based varnish. And then this is all varnished up, sealed, ready to be glued back on. So I just used a super glue gel, super glue his head back on. And it was pretty easy to attach back on. It did leak a little bit. I just wiped it down. But it stuck right back on, just the way it's supposed to. And I just got to add one little, I only had space for one little palm. I'm going to add one little bitty palm right there on his suit. It'll be the last detail. So I basically took the smallest palm that I had or that I could find and cut it down even smaller. The fuzzies got everywhere as well, so you want to make sure everything's dry before you try and do this, otherwise you're going to have black fuzz dust everywhere. But even after I heard it, I cut it down a little bit more. Brushed him down at the end to get all those fuzzies off of him. And that was the final step. He is done. And he is so sad and so cute. So if you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up. As always, I'm going to put all of Puddles' stuff down in the description. Go follow him. Watch his YouTube videos. Go follow him on Facebook. Follow him on Instagram. He posts his little Funko on Instagram all the time. And if you decide you want to do this, send me a screenshot or something. I'd like to see your end result. So I'll talk to you guys later. Have fun. Make art. Bye.